Hello, my beautiful crafty friends. I am Katia with Lunar Sun Creations, and today we are going to make one of the easiest journals you will ever make. It's a very simple one. I wanted an easy journal because I'm doing some markets coming up, and I wanted some pieces that I could sell at a fairly decent price point while still being interactive and awesome. So for this one today, I'm going to be using my own paper collection. So this is my Peacock collection. It is available in my Etsy shop. I'll put the link down below. So I'll just quickly go through the pages that are in this. You can, of course, use whatever paper collection you so desire, but I am in love with this one, and you know how much I love peacocks. If you are someone who has followed me for a while, you know I love peacocks. If anyone asks me what my favorite color is, that's what I tell them, peacock. Okay, so I'm going to show you what the project will look like, and then we'll go through the materials, and then we'll get going. Okay, so this is the simple version, the one that we're going to make now. Okay, I'm just going to flip through it really quickly. So each page is the same. So it's got one flap that opens with room for journaling. Okay, and they each open to the side so that it lays flat so you can journal. You can also put pictures in it, but I've designed it as a journal, because I find that journals have become very popular, so they're what's selling. And I will link the paper collection down below in the description box. So each of the pages are the same. There's 5 pages. Okay, and then I'm just going to quickly flip through. This is what we're going to do in part 2. So this is the same base page designs and the same base cover, but this is kind of an amped up version of it. So I'm adding a bunch of extra elements to this one to create just a more interactive experience. I'm just going to go through it really quickly. This only has 3 pages in it as opposed to the 5 pages. And I am going to go through it really quickly because there's going to be a full walkthrough of it in part 2. Okay, so waterfall there, and then lots of room for journaling, and then this opens up to be a accordion, and then opens to the side, and then this one opens up and up again, and then this one goes to the side. Oh, I missed putting a piece of paper on there. I'm gonna have to do that. And then the last page, and then this is another accordion that goes that way and then that way. Okay, in part 2 we will go over adding all of the elements to this, so you can start off making a simplified one, or if you want to do the advanced, well, not really advanced, but the more elaborate one, you can just create the page designs and the base cover part, and then in part 2 we can continue on. Okay, so let's get going. Okay, so for materials we will need a paper trimmer, scissors, a ruler, and some disc magnets. I use 1mm by 10mm disc magnets, so they are available online. You will need some score tape and or wet adhesive. I like to use the 2 of them together, but if you want to choose one or the other, that is also fine. We'll need some chipboard for the cover. This is a, it says it's a medium thickness. I would say it's about 2 millimeters thick. I tend to double it up so that it's a really nice heavy weight, so it's about 4 millimeters thick, or about at least 1/8 of an inch. Probably a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. I always create my covers with Tyvek envelopes. If you do not have any Tyvek, you can use bookbinder's tape. You can use duct tape in a pinch, although it's not quite as good. But Tyvek is readily available at most office supply stores and online as well. So Tyvek is Tyvek. You will need some black cardstock for the base of the album. I will be using white cardstock for matting a lot of the pieces because I am going to make these into journals, so I want lots of places to write. I will also be using bits and pieces of coordinating colored cardstock just to add some space for your eyes to rest. And you will need a scoreboard complete with your scoring tool and your bone folder. Okay, I think that is everything. If there's anything that I have missed, one more thing actually. I like to ink the edges of my papers with a Distress Oxide in either Vintage Photo or Black Soot. I kind of alternate between the two of them. I think I'm going to use Black Soot on this one. So this is an optional step, but if you want to do that, then feel free to do that. All right, so let me clear away my work area and let's get going. One last thing that I forgot, ATG gun. If you do have one, this is what I use to adhere all the patterned paper onto the album. If you don't have one, you can just use score tape and that's totally fine. But if you do have one, these are super handy. Okay, so the base pages are going to be 11 inches by 9.5 inches. And we need our scoreboard. We're going to do 5 base pages. Okay, so we need 5 pieces that are cut to those dimensions. And then place it in your scoreboard on the 9.5 inch side. And we're going to score at half and at 9. Okay, and then we're going to rotate the piece on your scoreboard and we're going to score at 5.5 on the 11 inch side. Okay, so we're going to do that to all 5 of your base page pieces. So half, 9, and then rotate and 5.5. Okay, the last one here. Oops. Went off the rails there. Okay, sweet. So set your scoreboard to the side for a moment. Okay, we are going to add score tape to 1/2 of these 1/2 inch sections. Okay, so just like that. And then we are going to cut off along the score line. We're going to cut off these bottom 1/2 inch sections. So cut up to the score line and then angle and cut out. Okay, so it's going to look like that. You're going to cut off this 1/2 inch section, and then when the score lines intersect, you're going to cut off at an angle. And then at the top, you're also going to make a little angle cut there. Okay, now make sure that your score tape does not go over your score line. Okay, so can you see that? Hopefully you can see that there is a tiny little space between the score tape and the score line itself. Okay, so we're going to do that to all 5 of our base pages. Okay, I'm going to add the score tape first and then I will cut them all. Okay. So now that we've got our score tape on, we can cut along those score lines. Okay, so right to where the score lines meet, and then out at an angle. Okay, so get all 5 of your pieces to that stage, and then we can fold and crease all of the score lines. Okay, so you should now have 5 pieces that look like this. So now we're going to use our bone folder, and we are going to fold and crease all of these score lines. Okay, so we are going to fold away from the indent. So when you create a score line, there's an indent and then there's a raised part of the line. So we're going to fold away from the indent. Okay, so we're going to do that with each one of these. This just helps with the to keep the integrity of the papers and not stretch the fibers of the paper so much that they tear. Okay, perfect. So now that they are all folded and creased, we can remove the score tape backing and adhere one side to the other to form a base page. So I like to add just a little bit of wet adhesive on top of the score tape just to add some extra security. If you just use score tape over the course of, like, it'll take a while, but the score tape will eventually lose its adhesion. So if you have the wet adhesive as well, it tends to really hold it. And the only reason that I don't use just the wet adhesive is because the wet adhesive takes too long to dry and I tend to move things too much. The score tape helps to keep things in place right away. And my impatient nature, if I just use the wet adhesive, I tend to muck things up by moving them around too quickly before the glue has time to dry. I like to smooth things out with my finger, just so that there aren't any lumpies or bumpies. And then we're just going to fold that over like that. Okay, and there is one of your base pages. So this is where the binding system will go. The binding system will go inside here, and then the elements will go on both sides of the base page. So we're going to do that with the rest of them. So recently I have been trying to allow myself to create simple things. I always tend to want to add so many extra things to everything and overcomplicate them so that they take me a very long time. And in doing so, I have to, charge more at markets because it's taken me so long. And I've discovered that when I do simple things, they tend to sell, obviously a lot more because people are much more willing to fork out, say $60 to $100 over, $200 to $300. So I'm trying to become happy and content with doing simpler things and not overcomplicating everything that I create. Because simple does not mean that it is inferior in any way. Simple simpler. And that's okay. My brain loves to overcomplicate things. I also overthink things, so yeah. If you're the same way, let me know in the comments and we can talk about it. Okay, so there are our base pages. And now we will get our A pieces happening. So the A pieces, you're going to need 10 of them. So we're going to have two, like one on each side of each page. So you'll need 10. And they measure 5 7/8 by 8 3/8 inches. Okay, so get 10 of those cut. Bring back your scoreboard. Then we are just going to score at half on the 5 7/8 inch side. If you want to add a whole bunch of the extras like I showed you at the beginning of the video, then you'll be scoring at half and 5/8. So for this part 1, I am just going to be doing the simplified version, so I'm just going to be scoring at half. But if you would like to add all of the extra elements that I'll be showing you in part 2, then make sure to do that extra score line at the 5/8 inch mark. Okay. Okay, so once those are all scored, we're going to put score tape on that 1/2 inch section of each one of them. Once you have score tape on all of those 10 pieces, we're going to miter the corners. So just cutting off just a little bit at an angle from the score line to the edge of the page. And then we are going to fold and crease each one of those score lines. Okay, so I'll come back when all of mine are to this stage. Okay, once all of your A pieces look like this, we're going to add them onto our base pages. So, because I'm going to have this as a journal, I want it to be easy to write in, which means you need flat surfaces. So, I am going to make sure that the direction that these fold out is going to provide a flat surface to write on. So, on the first page, imagine that we're going to have the cover here. So you want this to open to the left so that when you have white cardstock here to write on, it's going to be resting on the cover, which is a hard surface. And then this part will be resting on the rest of the pages, so it'll also be easy to write on. And then when you flip it over, so this was page 2, so the next piece, you, instead of opening out this way, because now that you're on page 2, this would be in thin air, you know, like open, the cover is underneath here. So you want this one to be opening this way so that now it is sitting on page 3 so that you'll be able to write on it. I hope that makes sense. You just want to make sure that whichever way it's opening, there is a flat surface underneath it so that you can write on it fairly easily. Okay, so the A pieces are just going to go on either the left or the right side of each page. And just make sure that whichever one you just put down, the next piece is kind of opposite it. Okay, so say this is page 3. So it's going to be sitting here, the spine is here, so page 3 is going to open so that you can write on it because it's resting on page 4. Page 4 is going to open this way, so it rests on page 3. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to get all these on and then I will come back when it's time to move on to the next step. Okay, so your pages should now look like this. Flap there, and then when you open it to the next page, another flap. So each one, the opening for each one is on the left-hand side, all right? And we've got to open, and then when you flip it, it opens the other way. So each page will look like this, okay? So you've got a flap on either side like that. Now you can just leave them like this, or you could add magnets to keep these flaps closed. I like having magnets. I like to keep things very closed, but it's not absolutely necessary. I'm going to take a little piece of score tape and put it about 1/2 inch in and put 2 magnets magnetized together onto that little bit of score tape, and then a tiny bit more score tape, okay, and then close that up to adhere the other magnet. And then I'm just going to cover them with a little bit more score tape just to like keep them in place. Okay, now you can have this magnet here work double duty. You can let it find its buddy through the paper and then put just a tiny bit more score tape on there. And then close this part to adhere that magnet. All right, so if you do decide to put magnets on each of your pages like this, you want to make sure that you stagger them. So these ones were pretty much in the center of the page going top to bottom. So the next ones that you add, you want them to be either a little bit above or a little bit below, because if they're all in the same place, then all of your pages are going to really magnetize together and be hard to open. Ask me how I know this. I made one and it's so hard to open the pages because they all magnetize together. These magnets are so strong. And right after saying that, I just put it in the same spot. Let's just move that, shall we? Yeah, so I'm going to put this one kind of up here, and then I'll do the same process that I did before. Okay, and cover them up. And again, I'll use that same magnet and let it work double. That way it also saves on magnets. Okay. Okay, and then this next one, I'll put it down here and then kind of start the process again, so that none of them are in the exact same spot. Okay, so I will just finish adding magnets to each of my pages. And again, if you don't feel like doing this, then there's no necessity to it. You can definitely just have the pages open without a magnet or a closure. That's totally fine. Okay, so I'll be right back as soon as I have all of my pages all ready to go. Okay, so now that all of your pages have your magnets on there, we can move on to the next step. We are going to add some just white paper on the inside of each of these if you're wanting to use it as a journal. You could also add pattern paper. So this is where you'd put your pattern paper on. If you want to do all the extra elements, then set your pages aside. And in part 2, I will show you how to put all the extra elements on, as this is the point where the pages start to differ. So if you are doing the simplified version, then we are just going to add some white paper. If you're doing the more complex version, I suppose, just adding some extra elements, then set these aside and we'll work on that in part 2. Okay, but for this one, I am going to do the patterned paper, or in my case, I'm going to just add white paper because I want this to act as a journal. The measurement of the white paper that I'll be using is 5 1/4 by 8 1/8. So I'm just going to add that to the inside of all of my pieces, all of my pages, and then we will make the cover. So once you have your white paper on the inside of each of your pages, you can add the pattern paper. So for the Peacock collection that I've done that's in my Etsy store, I've sized it so that you don't have to do any cutting. They're the perfect size for this particular album. You can, of course, print out the full size 8.5 by 11 sheets, and I also have them in a smaller size. The 2 per page are perfect for this album. So I have put most of them on. So I'm just going to finish putting on the last couple. I have inked the edges in the Black Soot Distress Oxide. Now, if you wanted to use this as more of a photo album as opposed to a journal, then you might want to, have a little bit more space for photos if that's what you would like. But you can, do this however you wanted. I just wanted really pretty pictures on the outside and then room to journal on the inside. So I wanted this one to be really, really simple. And that's what I was going for. So pages are done. Now we can create the cover. So for the cover, you will need 2 pieces of a heavyweight chipboard. I would say this is about 1/8 of an inch thick. You'll need 2 pieces that are 6 1/4 by 9 inches. And then you'll need a couple pieces of cardstock that you are going to wrap the chipboard in, and they measure 8.5 by 11. Okay, so you're gonna wrap the chipboard in those. You will also need some Tyvek. So I've got 1 piece that is 4 inches wide by 20. So how I do this is, so it's normally an envelope that's like sitting like this, like a whole big envelope. So I cut the envelope into the strip size that I want and then cut it open. Okay, and then add the adhesive. So this is going to be our kind of spine piece. And then I've also cut two pieces that are the same length at 20 inches, but they're only 1 3/4 inches wide. So these are going to help reinforce our binding. Okay, so let's get that done and then we'll work on the binding. So first we're going to put some adhesive all over the backs of our chipboard. Just for ease of use, I'm going to use my big thick roll of score tape here. So this one is 6 inches wide. I've got a 6-inch and a 4-inch. And for things like this, so handy. I would like to get some like, what are they, like the not Teflon. Maybe it is Teflon. I don't know. The coated scissors so they don't get all sticky. They're much easier to cut sticky things. I think it's Teflon, is it? I don't know. Something non-stick. Okay, fabulous. Okay, so now I am going to put this right smack dab in the center of our cardstock and then put score tape all the way around the perimeter. So I'll do that to both of them. I'll get this one ready as well. Didn't realize how much cat fur I had trapped in there. Is that cat fur? Yeah. Don't worry, I'm not selling this one. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to put some score tape all the way around the perimeter. Do that to both of them. And then we are going to miter our corners. And I'll do the other one. So in at an angle until you get to the corner and then out at an angle. Okay. Get our biddies out of the way here. And now we will fold these all in. I'm just kind of giving them a little encouragement here. Tell them which way I would like them to go, please. I'm going to add a tiny bit of wet adhesive to each one. If you get any seepage, just give it a little wipe there. Okay, all 4 sides. I do like to kind of take my scissors and kind of do a little poke in at the corners just to make sure it kind of does a nice smooth rounded transition instead of a pointy pokey transition at the corner. Okay, go over all 4 edges with your bone folder. Okay, and then do the other one. Okay. Okay, so your 2 pieces of chipboard are all wrapped up there. Now we're going to take our big piece of Tyvek. Okay, and what's going to happen is that these are going to sit onto the Tyvek like that, and then this is going to wrap around like that. Before we finish the cover with the Tyvek, we are going to get our binding system done and our pages into our binding system so that we can have the proper spacing in between our 2 covers. The width in between the 2 covers is going to depend on how thick your pages are. Okay, so get a sheet of cardstock that is 8 1/4 by 11 1/2 and grab your scoreboard. Okay, so put that piece of cardstock on the 11 1/2 inch side, and we are going to score at 1, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 2 1/4, 3, 3 1/4, 4, 4 3/4, 5, 5 3/4, 6 1/2, 6 3/4, 7 1/2, 8 1/4, 8 1/2, 9 1/4, 10, 10 1/4, 10 1/2. So what we've got is 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 3/4, 3/4, 1/4 inch, 3/4, 3/4, 1/4 inch, 3/4, 3/4, 1/4 inch, 3/4. So where the pages are going to go are the 3/4 inch sections. And then we've got a 1/4 inch in between each of those pages. So this is what the page is going to go onto. So put your scoreboard away, and we're going to add score tape to all the 3/4 inch sections on the back side. So where the raised part of the score line is. So the 3/4 inch sections are going to be kind of like folding into each other, so you don't have to put it on every single 3/4 inch section, just every second one. And then we're also going to put score tape on the 2 1-inch sections at either end. Okay, so this is what it should look like right now. We are going to remove these bits of score tape one at a time. We're going to add just a little bit of wet adhesive. Okay, and now we're going to adhere the 2 3/4 inch sections together and then bend the rest back. We're going to use our bone folder. We're going to fold this the other way. Okay, so you've got those, the first 2 3/4 inch sections are now together to form this. So we're going to do that with each set of 3/4 inch sections. Okay. Okay, so now we've got 2 with a 1/4 inch in between them, okay? And then we'll do the next one. Okay, so now we've got 3. Okay, and the last one. Okay, so these flanges are what your pages are going to slide onto. So you also want to give a little crease to the other 2 1/4 inch sections on either end. Okay, and now we are going to add score tape onto each one of these. So on both sides of each one of these flanges. This might be I'm going to use a smaller score tape and just add wet adhesive, I think. Okay, so once you have score tape on all of those flanges, we are going to give them a little miter. This just will help the pages to slide on easier. Okay, so I'm just cutting off just a little bit at an angle just so the pages can slide on a little easier. Okay, so this is what you should have now. Now we can bring back our cover bits. And now this is going to sit in between these, okay? And you want the very last score line. So this score line here and this score line here are going to hit the edges of the chipboard pieces. So that's how you know how much space you need in between. Okay, so move the binding system out of the way for a second. We're just going to measure how much space that is. So we want 2 inches in between your pieces. So now we're going to take our piece of Tyvek and remove the backing. Okay, I'm going to add just a little bit of wet adhesive just for some extra security. A little extra adhesive never hurts, you know? Okay, Perfect. And now we're going to place one of the covers. I'm just going to smooth out some of these lumps. Hang on. Okay, perfect. We are going to place one of these covers about an inch in on top of the Tyvek, and then we want to make sure that we have a 2-inch space, and that's where we're going to put our other piece. So make sure you've got a 2-inch space, and it's right about there. Perfect. Okay, now we're going to pull this over and pull this one up, and they're just going to meet. Okay, give this a really good crease. Okay, and now we are going to adhere our binding system just with these two 1-inch sections. So the 1-inch sections are going to go pretty much on top of these Tyvek bits. Okay, center it up and down. Okay, and then the spine has room to maneuver and move. Okay, and then we are going to use these smaller Tyvek strips to go around and reinforce what we just put down. Again, I'm going to add some wet adhesive here. Okay, and lay it flat on my table. Okay, and then place this on top of it, and then bring it up and down. Okay, so that is going right next to that first score line, okay? So it's going right over top of this inch part of the binding to really make sure that it is stickety stuck down there. Okay, and add a bit of wet adhesive to this one. Smooth out any bumps in the adhesive just to make sure we don't have a big clump of glue on our cardstock. Okay, and then we're going to place our cover just like that, and then bring these pieces around. Oh, this one was a little bit short, but that's okay. We're going to cover it with black paper anyway. Okay, so give that a good creasing with your burnishing with your bone folder here. Okay, and there is your cover. So now we can put our pages into these flanges. So remove the tape backing from both sides of one of the bits here, and then I'm going to put some wet adhesive on there as well on both sides. Okay, and then open your page to the center bit there and just slide it on. Just make sure it's centered top to bottom, and then give it a press. Okay, so there is the first one. Okay, and then we're just going to do the same process with each one of our pages. Make sure the pages are even with each other as well. Okay, so just keep going like that until you have all of your pages in your album, and then we'll just work on the cover and the inside bits, inside and outside of the covers. So once your pages are in your album, you'll notice that they lay completely flat, so it's really easy to write in your journal. And they lay flat because we have not got them attached to the spine, so they have that room to move here, right? That's why I didn't want it to be attached to the spine, so they would lay completely flat like that. Okay, so on the inside front and back cover, I'm just gonna be doing really simple. I'm gonna do black cardstock and then white cardstock over top, just so there is more room to journal, since that's what I want to use it for. Feel free to put on more pattern paper. Okay, so that's my inside, front, and back. You can embellish it more if you like, but I'm just going to keep it very, very simple. And then for the front and back covers, I've taken a couple of the images and backed it on black cardstock and then a colored cardstock. Okay, so that's going to be my cover. So I'm going quite simple there as well. I'm just letting the beautiful papers do all the work for me. Okay, so that's the front. On the back, I've just got that image there. I'm going to leave the spine, I think, or do I want to put... I'm trying to decide whether I want some colored cardstock on the spine. I did decide to do some paper on the spine, so it's like a just shy of 1 inch wide by 8 3/4. And I found this in my stash. I've had it for ages and ages and ages, so I don't remember where it's from, but I'm sure if you Google metal peacock feather charms, you'll find something online. But I think I'm going to put this on the spine part as well, and just use a brad to do that. So I'm just gonna take my crocodile and punch a hole in my spine here. I'm gonna go as centered as I can. Is that centered? It's very hard to tell. Okay, so I'm just going to put my brad and my charm through that hole. You could do a little ribbon or something attached to this as well if you wanted to, but I think I'm just going to keep it very, very simple and just do the charm. Okay, and then I'm going to open the tines on the inside here. Just like that. And then I'm just going to put a little piece of Tyvek with some adhesive on the inside to cover those tines, just so they don't come out. Don't want to lose our pretty charm. Okay, and there we go. It's a very simple album, like I said, but it is so awesome for a journal. Like, there's tons of spaces to write, and I love that all the things that you will be writing in it are like kind of secretly hidden. You can just kind of, someone can flip through the book and not see any of the things that you've written and just have it be like pretty paper. So yeah, I love that. And I hope you loved it as well. So there you go, the easiest journal you'll probably ever make. But so awesome. Okay, I love you all, and I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I will be back very, very soon with another couple of projects. I've got a few new paper collections that I will be releasing very soon, so I'll be excited to share some projects using those. Sending you huge hugs. Bye.